Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Aaron, could you do a roll call?
Naring.
Yep.
Dashlet.
Here.
Fleur.
Here.
Kierke.
Here.
Lautenbach.
Here.
Meverden.
Here.
Havoc.
Here.
Schmidt.
Okay. The meeting is in compliance with the open meeting law. Is there approval or somebody making changes to the agenda that was submitted?
Put a motion in to approve it as published.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Approval of meeting minutes from our last meeting.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, minutes are approved. Okay, consideration of bills and conference attendance, general bills. Any questions on any of the bills?
Yeah, I did
Huh?
this.
Okay, then could I get a motion to approve?
Just wait,
Yeah,
there's
you
a
had a
question.
Dave has a question.
Oh, yes.
County Rescue Services, Kelly, $200. That was for an intercept?
Yep,
Okay,
it's contract.
Anytime you see that, it'll be intercepted.
okay, $427.50 admin, legal counsel to Davis Kuthen. Kelthau, is that, in regard to the, medical center?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I could pull the bill and find out.
Okay, if it is, are we keeping track of what those legal costs are for the close of the real estate? That would be my concern.
Sure.
Feral and equipment supply, I've just gotta ask. You know, Matt, honestly, $608.20 for knee pads and chains? You know, I don't mind paying for your entertainment, but I mean, seriously. What?
So there's a lot of things that I ordered when I was down there at a show.
Yeah,
And as it's coming in, some of the stuff, it's really coded different. No, the knee pads, I think were $80 for that.
okay, all right.
A big portion of that bill is a chain place for threading pipe.
Okay. That was it.
Okay. Is there any other questions?
It was not.
The Public Works, it was.
If not, could I get a motion to approve the bills then?
Then I didn't see
Come on,
that.
let's wake up here.
Okay, and then would you like to do a roll call, Aaron?
Yep, 1 second. Kierke.
Yes.
Havoc.
Yes.
Fleur.
Yes.
Lautenbach.
Yes.
Naring.
Yes.
Dashlet.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Meverden.
Yes.
Okay, a motion carries. Next thing, public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the council right now? Anyone from the audience? Okay, it doesn't look like, then we'll move on to old business. Turn over to Scott. The update on the public safety building.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So, progress update on the public safety building, as we discussed at our last meeting, with the need still being there, but obviously the referendum failing. It was decided at that time that I spearheaded an ad hoc committee, which we have put together. We did meet. Our first original meeting was, it'll be 2 weeks ago from next Tuesday, because we decided to meet every couple of weeks. And at that safety building committee meeting, there are minutes that are available if you guys want to request them. I'd be happy to share them. But in a nutshell, we went through introduction of the members and the background of each. The members of that committee are myself, Chief Ackerman from the fire department, Dave Reckel, who is a citizen and business owner, former business owner. We've got Chuck Hutter, who's also a current Board of Appeals member, formal council member, but he's a citizen member as well, and very inversed with the construction. He's a construction business owner. Former Mayor Wayne Schmidt, who's been obviously, as we all know, an advocate of not only safety building, but 50 years in at the fire department, so a lot of knowledge there. Current Mayor Virginia Haskey, Public Works Director Matt Murphy, Bob Junio, who's also serving as a citizen, And Bob, with his background in electrics and in the trades, his input is invaluable as well. And then Chief Randy Remaker from the police department. So we had met. The first meeting was, there was a lot of introductions and then basically going over the mission statement and the goal of what this committee is moving towards, which is finding essentially finding a beneficial way to move forward with the needs of the city's fire, EMS, and APD police services, and the future space needs analysis that we already have got done that we're familiar with at the council level, but while remaining fiscally responsible to the citizens and fellow taxpayers of the city of Algoma. Items that we went through at the meeting, we went through community feedback. It was specifically one of the questions that I asked. There was a lot of good discussion. I think we met for an initial meeting. It was an hour and a half, almost 2 hours long. Why did the referendum fail? And we went around the room. It was a true roundtable discussion on why we thought it failed, what we had heard on the streets from our neighbors and from the community. And there was a list that is probably too long to go through right now at this moment, but there was a lot of really, really, really good ideas and discussions that came out of that. And we discussed next steps and opportunity for, a possible future referendum and what the needs are. All of the members have been emailed. We have our next meeting, which is scheduled for next Tuesday. In conjunction with that, we're already in discussions with Jim Theis from Bayland Builders, who was the builder that helped us out with the initial referendum in that building, to go over some of the structural proposals that we talked about, whether it be a simple, I want to call it simplified square building, long rectangular, doing it in phases. We discussed as far as, maybe addressing fire at this point, fire and EMS at this point, doing it all. But as you recall, I think we had, when we got in discussions with Bayland, we gave them the space needs analysis that we paid for that was very expensive from the third party. Name escapes me right now, but we gave them that, and then they came back and built off of that. Now we're looking at it from a ground up, simplified version. Okay, what can we do to get something that's going to be a little bit more palatable for the citizens of Oklahoma? And all in all, Jim is actually, they're in the process, Bayland's in the process. We're hoping to have a rude, crude, simplified mapping, or at least a baseline to start for our next meeting, which is next Tuesday, but it's moving along quickly. I think it's very positive, and our net goal obviously is to address the needs of the departments and find something that's not only attainable but feasible for the taxpayers. So that's a very high level version, but did I miss?
Nope, the meeting is next Monday, the 23rd.
Monday, I'm sorry, I probably a different meeting that I got, sorry. It's next Monday, I apologize.
So at that meeting, my understanding, clerk was there doing the minutes?
At that meeting, Erin was there taking notes. I took the most of the notes myself.
Just was asking, I was told that, and I'm asking because it's for an ad hoc. I mean, you don't have to have somebody specially there to do.
For the first initial meeting, I thought that it was important. She was asked to be there by not only myself, but the fire chief as well, just for the first initial meeting. Chances are.
I don't plan on attending all of them. I am there if there's any talk about the referendum.
Yeah.
So this initial one, but after that, you guys got it until you start talking about referendums again.
Okay.
Yep.
Scott, are you gonna put the minutes in with the council stuff every month so we can at least review on that?
I-
It should be, cause it's a public record, we should have the document stuff.
We can. I mean, if that's a request, I don't see an issue
I'd
doing
like to
so.
see that in there.
Any other questions? It's pretty high level. It's in, I don't want to say it's in the infancy stages. We already went through that a year and a half, 2 years ago, but yeah. But all in all, that's where we're at.
Thank you.
Okay, then we'll move on to the next item. Algoma EMS compensation. Amber, do you want to take that one? take one, pass it down. So I'm handing out the budget numbers that I put together. This has been a very difficult task because there are so many moving parts and pieces. So after talking with some of the other staff tonight, we scaled it back to just this. This is the initial start. So your first column is the proposed wage changes implemented as of June 1st. What is that gonna do? And then it looks at a 5-year outlook. And I put in escalators for all the different categories of between 3 to 5%, depending on if it was outside contractor service like computer support where there's labor involved, or if it's just supplies. If it's implemented as of June 1st, there is a shortfall for this year of about $65,000. That is going to have to come from the general fund. They don't have, that's all of their reserves spent, 100%, with the exception of the restricted reserves, like the EMS funding assistance program payments, because those can only be used for very specific things. If we can get the townships to agree to help cover the shortfall every year, that's at the very bottom, you can see, that is split out based on the value, equalized values within the school districts for each. So all of the townships lying within the Algoma School District. And I use that because that is exactly how the city of Kiwanis agreement is written. They, with their surrounding townships, the shortfall that is determined every year after the audit gets covered by the townships in the city based on their equalized value by the school district. There's a lot of factors that we need to consider. We've got, I'm trying to toe a fine line here because there's certain things that I
Amber,
can't.
Before you go too far into the bushes, the wages, what did you use as a COLA? Are you applying a COLA? What did?
3%.
3%?
Yep.
All right. And that would be reflective of FICA, retirement, healthcare, yada, yada, yada.
The FICA gets calculated on the wages,
Okay,
7.65% of the
Right,
wages.
yep.
The retirement and health insurance, there currently is none,
okay,
other than for any of our full-time employees that also run rescue, that may, because our payroll software will automatically distribute a proportionate share of those costs for those full-time employees.
okay, all right.
So, and I've got to go in and look, because I think we might have 2 full-time employees in our payroll software that are no longer running for rescue, or one is and one is not.
Okay,
So we need to go in and make sure that they're not allocated to the
Okay.
EMS anymore.
all right, thank you. That was it.
Workman's comp has changed dramatically. The rescue was lumped in with the volunteer firefighters. In the past for workers' comp, it was about $3,000 total. It was based on population, not wages. This year, when Chris from United Heartland came to do the workman's comp audit, he said, no, it can no longer be lumped in. It has to be separated. It will now be approximately 5.79% of the wages. They sent us a bill. We actually just cut the check for it yesterday, because it was sent back in February but got lost in the administrator's emails. So it's about $5,000 that was allocated for last year to the rescue department. And then this year is gonna be probably another $10,000. So, you know, that's gonna be a huge increase to their budget. And that's why when you look at that line, you see this year, 2022, is 18,000, almost 19,000, but next year it drops to 14. It's because we're back paying for last year. Most of the software support, I did a 5% increase. The telephones I left alone, even because that we have a contract with Cellcom. Provided they don't change our contract, it'll stay stagnant. The billing service, that's what we pay Three Rivers for billing out. That I did, where are they? That's 7% of the anticipated revenues we take in. So if we take in more, that one's gonna go up, but if we take in less, it'll go down. So it's commensurate with the revenue source. I did plan for 5% increase to the fees, public charges for service every year on the revenue side. The EMS FAP payments and then the Medicare payments for ambulance services, I left level across the board because I don't know what those are gonna do. They don't change much from year to year. Okay. So, then we have to look to how do we fund this? We currently have about $39,000 in the contingency line. That is the amount between our anticipated revenues and our anticipated expenditures. We had $39,000 of revenues that were unallocated. So we put that in a contingency line to cover unexpected costs that may arise during the year or to increase the fund balance. Once the fund balance is above 35%, then we move that additional money over to capital per our financial policies, fund balance policies. So we have a little bit of money there to cover it. One of the things that was mentioned to me was possibly using fund balance to cover it. I do not want to do that for multiple reasons. You're using a one-time revenue source to cover ongoing costs. Never a good idea. Once you use it, it's that much harder to put it back. We got some pretty decent rates and it got an uptick in our rating because of our fund balance reserves and where they're at. We can cut other departments. That would be another way to help fund it. And then, of course, the obvious, getting the townships to help share in the costs.
Are you talking long-term or for, because I, when this was originally brought up, I mean, the answers that I'm looking for is, if we need to make an immediate impact right now, first and foremost, what do we do for the rest of 2022, right? Where do we get that money? 2023 and beyond, that's budgeted. I mean, that's something that would be addressed through the budgeting process, rate increases, things like that. So when you say this 39, I think originally it was like 43 estimated available in reserve fund balances. I'm going back to our budgeting. I've brought my paperwork here from that meeting. What do we have available if we need to pull the trigger right now today, Amber? How short are we gonna be for this year?
65,000.
That's what their proposed wages, right?
But we're already 5 months, call it 6 months into the year.
That's 65,000 if you start paying it effective June 1st.
The
And
total
that's-
net cost difference, I mean, when I'm looking at it, the total net cost difference though annually was about 80.
It's 80,000 a year if you do 365 days a year, times 24 hours, times all these added together.
So if it's an $80,000 net difference for annually, how can it be 65 and we're already
It's-
halfway through?
It's 85,000 for that 6 months. I didn't bring that sheet with me from the last, maybe I have it.
Well, we did the math, I mean, based
Yeah.
off of hours
So
per year.
we were using about 88,000 from the fund balance. That's with the rates being implemented as of June 1st.
So it's 160,000 a year difference? That doesn't seem right.
That doesn't make sense.
No, it can't be.
So my wages for this year were about 170 some thousand, and we're at 237,000 just for wages. Now you have the workman's comp that we have to add in. That was previously around 1,700, it's now gonna be 18,000. Plus the FICA on top of the 7.65 of the difference between 170 and 237. So when I first put this sheet together and handed it out the last round, this was wages only, nothing else.
Okay.
No, for the workman's comp, you said it's going up. If we wouldn't have been going through all this, the workman's comp would have stayed the way it was?
No, it was going up regardless.
So the net differences, and I'm looking at, this is going back to our budgeting process with Kelly's proposal on here. I've got, and Kelly, I'm gonna need you to help me driver 650, and then the techs are both, we're at 9, so 650 and then 9 and 9 is what your request was at that time. Going back to the meeting that we had that Tom came to, was it 7, 9, 10? Or
I believe that.
6, 9, 10?
Yeah.
No, it was 6, I think one we were better, or 6, 9, 10?
To be honest with you, I don't know what Tom exactly came here. I know it was 10 and 9. I'm not sure what he ended up with. The rest of it's right.
Just a sec.
Kiwani was 7 and Luxembourg 6, or vice versa. It was 6, 7.
Oh, I got that here, it's
It was-
10,
I've
10,
got
9,
that.
and 7.
10, 9,
So it was
7.
10, 9, and 7?
That's what Luxembourg is.
10, 9, and, Kiwani is 10, 9, and 6.
10, 9, 6, 10, 9, 7.
Luxembourg is 10, 9, 8.
And your proposal back when we did budgeting, you asked for 9, 9, 650.
9, 8, and 650.
Right.
I got, regardless either way, 9, 8, 650.
Great, that was just to get us up
Illustrate.
a little bit,
Yep.
not making the whole jump to equal with Kiwani and Luxembourg, the area communities that we're, like we already say, we're battling with.
And that,
But that was,
And then hoping to jump up again with the new
Correct.
budget.
but that
To get in the-
never even made it to the council.
Right.
It was struck down.
looking at this
Budget
though and
making
using
process.
those numbers, and again, I'm just trying to get over the hurdle of 90 grand versus, in my mind, it was about 40, 45, 50. At that time, it was 200 and the proposed was 213 and change, call it 214. And then we had the proposal, which was 172 and change, call it 173, so we're at 20, call it 27, we've got, it was about a $43,000 difference.
43,791.40. Oh, no, I'm sorry, just a sec, let me correct. With proposed changes, 48,418.11.
And that didn't count the workman's comp.
And that didn't count the workman's comp.
Correct, we're just strictly talking
Correct.
wages, not workers'
And the
comp. I didn't know
proposed,
about that till this.
and Tom's proposal on 419 was 10, 9, and 7.
So regardless of what the pennies are or the beans that we're counting here, my concern is this: doing nothing is not an option.
Right. Gotta do something.
If the prevailing wage is the prevailing wage, if our surrounding communities are at 10, 9, and 7, and we're at much, much lower than that, we're gonna continue to, I mean, the struggle's there, it's been there for a long time, we need to do something. Finding where we get the money from, that's where I was asking, if we need to do something immediately, and then figure out where we get it for this year, and then for next year, the townships, something has to be done. We need to figure it out in the
So
budgeting process.
if you make the change effective June 1st,
Yep,
you will need to find $65,000 to cover it.
What if we do?
okay.
And there's
The
some.
changes proposed or requested back in the budgeting, or the
Nope.
change to match?
The change proposed as of 4/1/2022, or 4/19. EMTs at advanced at $10, EMT basics at 9, and EMS drivers at 7.
What is that number if we go to Kelly's first proposal?
987.
Do we know that number?
I don't know that offhand.
Just a sec, let me see if it's
I
there.
mean, we get closer and.
Asking you, Kelly, I mean, is that enough?
Well, it's certainly going to help. I mean, obviously, the problem isn't going away, it's getting worse.
Yeah.
With summer rolling around, the people that are taking double, triple, quadruple shifts, they go camping, they go on vacation. There's gonna be huge holes in the schedule coming very quickly, simply because of the time of the year. It's hard to attract new people, it's hard to attract new people. It's hard to attract people from the outside that are already licensed and trained and ready to go, ready to step on board on day one,
And then
when they
drive.
can drive
Right.
10 miles, 15 miles, and sit at a place that has residential places to stay, beds and whatnot, Now you're asking them to drive another 15, 18 miles and get 30%, 40% less wages where they gotta sleep in a recliner.
And pay $5 a gallon for gas.
So,
So, I mean, it's not going away.
No.
In answer to your question, is it enough? I don't know. But anything is gonna help a little.
point of clarification from the treasurer, when you say if we do this effective June 1st, we're gonna have to find 65, you had mentioned, call it 40 grand, 39, 40-ish. So are we scrambling to find 20,000 or 25?
No, we have to find 65,000. So the change, the overall change,
What if we have 40 grand in reserves?
so the sheet last round, we had 46,000 available of unreserved fund balance. The use of fund balance for the year, wages only, nothing else included, was 88.7, so we needed to find 42.6. Now I've got the FICA in there, I have the workman's comp in there, all of that's calculated, it's 65,000 that we
About
have to
that
find for this
39.
year.
How are you coming
That'd
up
be
with
close
that?
to
'Cause I come up
15,000
with
just on
36.4
workman's comp.
plus
Yeah.
FICA and stuff, so say I
Look
add
at your
another
first column.
10%. Well, I'm just adding the difference in the rates. If I go 9, 8, and 7, and I add those up, subtract 686, 580, and 422, it's a difference of $7.12 multiplied by 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, comes up to 36.4. So if I add 20% for FICA and all that, I'm still around the 40,000. I don't know how we're at
So-
65.
I've got a spreadsheet,
Okay.
one day for a row for each day of the year.
Okay.
I put in the hours times the rate for a driver, and then for advanced EMTs, because Kelly has told me he's got very few basics.
Oh, he's got more advanced.
So it's almost
okay.
all
Yeah,
advanced. So when we budget for only advanced.
80% advanced EMTs.
So if we,
So I mean, you're at the higher level of the EMT wage mostly.
And it's 10, not 9.
Well, I'm using 9, cause Kelly said 9
Oh.
would be okay, so
So
I'm
that
using 9.
65,000 is based
The-
on
the
10.
one thing that, and I understand what Amber is saying, but we're talking kind of two different battles here. It's wage increase, but now with the sheet that she passed out, it's the workman's comp increase that where she's kind of lumped into this. That's if the wages had been passed back in January, you'd still be looking for the extra $18,000 right now because we didn't know about the workman's comp.
When does that do?
So now suddenly it's
Last
like
year's is already paid.
added in here and it makes it sound worse for the wage increase, I guess.
So doing that, I come up with 41.5 plus taxes for 7 months of paying this extra. I still don't understand why you got 65, cause I'm doing the math by hand here and it doesn't come out to be what you're saying. Even if I increase this by 20%, I'm at 50,000.
So what are you doing for the math?
I'm taking $9 plus $8
No,
plus
you-
$7.
What is our budget, our annual budget, 4.3, 4.5, I mean, ish?
Let's not cut
Yes.
the wages, let's stay at what they originally asked for, because then we're going backwards again.
You-
Well, yeah, then we'll be
it-
higher.
Kevin, you're.
I'm figuring for 7 months at the
You,
new
but
rate.
you're making assumptions that aren't necessarily applicable on a per hour basis based on a yearly budget nut. It's almost an apples and oranges deal. I know where you're coming from, but you can't simply take 10, 9, and 7, or 10, 9, and 8 and add them together and multiply it out.
No,
That
you're
isn't how
subtracting
that
what you're
works.
paying now, and this is the difference for 7 months of salary.
No, that isn't how that works.
'Cause
Yeah,
that's
but
what
how
we
many?
need. We need 7 months of salary.
But how many are at
How many
10?
does
How many are at
Yeah,
9?
yeah.
How many are at 7? You're conflating that issue. You've got there.
So 65 does include that 18 or does not?
That does.
Okay, so my 40-ish was not that far.
No,
Okay.
no.
You add the extra
That-
15 or
That
whatever on,
65
it comes to
includes
that.
everything,
Okay.
absolutely everything.
Minus, not saying that we should or should not take that into consideration, but we're looking at a rough net difference of about 40, call it 42, 43 grand-ish and change. my question at that time at the meeting was, is if we pass this, we do this, cause it has to be done, where does the money come from?
So we can pull about 40,000 from contingency. Then council either has to make a decision of using fund balance or cutting another department. Those are our only options.
Nothing can come out of the COVID money.
It possibly could, but again, one-time monies.
Well, it's to tide them through for the year until we get in our budget.
But I've also sat here at the end of the year a couple of times now, and like everybody, we're talking 20 grand, that's 5 grand here, 10 grand here, all these departments rolled into one. I'm just throwing it out there, it's not that uncommon to have some monies left.
It is possible.
Okay.
Kelly's got a question. What's the possibility of pulling it from another department? For money that wasn't spent on, I'm sorry, Matt, but salt. I'm just, it's just what popped in my head, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to steal your
I'm
money.
gonna start calling it pepper next year.
I'm just saying, you know, something, I couldn't think of anything else, a dock, I don't know, whatever.
It's funny because me and Amber were having this conversation Monday and last week Friday, and she said, well, there's some salt money.
I didn't mean it that way, but it was the first thing that popped in my head. But, you know, how, can we share any of that?
Where's
Is there
it?
some to
Yes.
share?
That's up to the department heads.
Yes.
They have to answer
So that is general fund line item. So there are things that are general fund line item that we can take and roll over. It would be as simple as the council making that decision to cut some things from whatever rightfully so. Let's just say, to use Scott's number, $20,000 needs to be found. It could be 5 here, 2 here, 6 here, 1 here, and $500 or whatever we needed to get to that number.
It's a Band-Aid, Scott's point, we have to cover the weeds.
It's not as if we're sitting here discussing giving somebody a $40,000 bonus or raise. This is an essential need
Amber,
for
were there other concerns that you had? We're just
Yeah.
we're just
So-
talking dollars.
My concern is, I don't wanna focus too much on just this year, because if you do this, it has long-term implications. So, let's just say the townships say, no, we aren't gonna do this. I can't imagine that that's what's gonna happen, but if they did, next year, we now have to find 95,000. And
Well,
the year
then you
after
gotta
that,
look at your-
96,000.
When you do your budget, that's when the no offense, but the supervisors and that, we just all get your heads together and you do what you gotta do to make the budget.
So, we
That-
could solve this right now. We have to raise the taxes. We have enough capacity in our tax levy to raise, because we are currently not utilizing the full amount to cover our debt payments.
That's not something you're gonna do mid-year, right? I mean, we're talking. next
No,
year.
you can't do it mid-year, but you can do it next year.
The percentage-
However, $100,000 is 60 cents per thousand, so you're talking $60 for a $100,000 home.
Either that or waiting 20 minutes for an ambulance to show up. Sorry.
Well,
Or 35.
right, but these are the decisions that have to be made by you guys. We, as staff, cannot make those decisions.
One more quick question regarding the townships. Are those dollar amounts that we get back from them, are those based off of, percentages? Are they fixed dollar amounts? Is it similar to like the police, when we bought a truck? I got 51% the cities, and then it's a 24, 10, 13?
No.
How does that work?
So these numbers down here is splitting the difference of the shortfall only, not the full costs, because you are recouping some of your through fees for charges for service,
Okay.
okay? So that shortfall in 2023 of 94,970 is then calculated out and split between the townships based on the equalized value within the school district boundaries.
Got it.
The fire district contract is very difficult to calculate, and when we open this up, I'm going to ask that they do the same calculation for fire, as basing it on the school district boundaries, because
Okay.
that's already calculated by the state.
Okay, Kelly's been trying to, or you don't have anything
Well,
to say?
no,
to-
I just, there's just a couple of comments. We're talking about where the money comes from, and Chief Ackerman and I were talking the other day just a little bit. He couldn't be here today, he decided to go to watch a Brewer game, which they won 11 innings. But just a couple of things that we discussed, and it's not gonna cover all of it, but we currently have an administrator position that's vacant, and to the best of my knowledge, we're not ready to fill it yet. And that's a considerable salary that's not being paid right now. We had a rec department person that resigned, and that position was unfilled for a while. There should be money from that salary sitting there, wherever it sits. So there is, the administrator makes a decent amount of money. I'm guessing there's probably $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 of unpaid salary that won't get paid. With the recreation director also. The second thing is just a general comment that I have been bringing up year after year after year after year since I've been helping doing this budget, is I do not understand why the EMS service in Algoma is supposed to be a self-supported, self-funded entity with no tax dollars involved in it. Matt's group do a great job. Where's all that money come? The tax dollars. Pepper. The police department, where do all their salaries and equipment come from? Taxes. The fire department, the fire department of Algoma Fire and Rescue, tax dollars. Algoma Rescue has to be self-funded. We need money, raise the rates, which helps, but at a certain point, you can only raise so much because Medicare only pays, I don't care if you kind of charge $1,000, Medicare pays $180 and that's paid in full. Tax dollars never get put into to help our budget, ever. I mean, years and years and years ago, we had a surplus of over $500,000. I'm not throwing any names or whatever out there, but that was before things were on computers and kept track of closely, other than just on a yellow pad. We needed money to dredge the marina. Okay, they came up with that money. Then when it was time to buy a new ambulance back then, that $500,000 was down to $100,000. I don't know where that money went, but I can guess. But still, we were able to keep up with without taxes. Now we're to a point that I think the citizens have to start paying a little bit to help support this group as they've been supporting the rest of the services in town. That's the part I've been fighting that battle for 20 years.
Madam Mayor, can I respond? I have been letting Mr. Koss know for multiple years. They are in their own department because prior employees were automatically deducting the rescue wages and costs from the general fund budget to meet the expenditure restraint program requirements. So we didn't lose that 70-some thousand. They don't allow that. We're lucky we didn't have to repay past expenditure restraint payments. We found a workaround with our auditors to move it to its own fund because it has charges for service. It was covering its costs up until about 2 years ago. That's why it's in its own fund. I have never said we can't support it with tax dollars. In fact, last year we transferred $20,000 in. All of the money that's been put aside, including the township payments so far to date, has been put into the equipment reserve under the rescue department's category. That is all tracked. It has gone nowhere. What happened prior to when I got here, I don't know, and I can't testify to that. What I can tell you is the marina does charges for service and it is in its own fund. Rescue charges for service, it's in its own fund. Sewer charges for service, it's in its own fund. That is prescribed by the chart of accounts under the Wisconsin state statutes. We aren't doing anything we're not supposed to be doing here. Now the matter is, how do we backfill what's not covered by charges?
And that wasn't implying that we're doing anything wrong. I'm just saying that as a citizen, I'm willing to pay a little bit on my taxes to make sure I have an ambulance coming in within 3 to 4 minutes as opposed to 20 or 25 minutes. I think that would be a pretty easy sell. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay.
How do we know that we're maximizing our reimbursements? If we're using a billing agency, how do we know that we're maximizing our reimbursements and receiving everything that we're due, including mileage?
I can only answer, John, is, I'm gonna say 10 to 12, maybe 15 years ago, we used to do our own billing out of City Hall. And they hired, an individual, Jan Dark, okay? They hired her to be a part-time person in the office to be, basically to do the ambulance billing. The job became so labor intensive that her job became half-time, almost a full-time. We looked into having a billing service, and we interviewed several. The one we picked bases their pay, and Amber, you can probably correct me if I am wrong, but bases their pay on the money that is received. It's not the money that's billed, it's the money, so they're doing the best they can to bill, so we get reimbursed, so they take a percentage. They take 7% of what we receive. Any other billing company that I looked at was 10 to 12 to 15% of what
Okay.
received.
So
Okay?
that's your cost of doing business.
Okay, and when we went to the billing service, that very first year, our proceeds jumped, almost doubled. Again, I'm not blaming anybody, but because that's what they do for their job. They know all of the ins and outs of medical billing, whereas Jan and the other staff were learning on the fly, and they just didn't know all the ins and outs of doing that. To total answer your question, I don't know for sure if we're getting 100% of what we possibly can.
Kelly, if I could, how long have you been doing business with these guys?
Oh,
I'm gonna say 12 years,
Okay.
15 years.
Have you put a 2-year or a 5-year cycle about looking at somebody else every 5 years or every 3 years?
Every year when I go to the EMS, state EMS conference, I talk to other ambulance billing services, and this group, Three Rivers Billing, charges us the least of anybody by a considerable amount.
Leah has a question.
Yeah. How likely is it to increase people coming in or having people stay to cover shifts if we raise these rates?
There's absolutely no way of being able to quantify that answer.
Not as
that's
likely
where-
as
well, and that's-
leaving if we don't.
Well, and that's
I
where
mean, as far as having people stay in town to cover a few extra hours here or there, I would say that is huge. That people, instead of going to Green Bay shopping when there's 2 open hours, they can get $20, they're probably gonna stay and go to Walmart after, as opposed to 14, I don't know. But right now, in our meetings, it's a point of contention for the people that are there. As far as attracting people in, I'm hoping it'll help attract people in, but right now, people just kind of scoff at us. Again, why would I bypass Luxembourg, Kewanee, Sturgeon Bay, that's paying $10 an hour, and drive further to get $7 an hour? And I think we all can understand that, why would you drive further to work for 30 or 40% less money?
and I guess
Doing the same work, I mean, it's not like maybe you really love your job to drive further, but doing the same exact work,
And I guess I have an unpopular opinion in this case. I see the need. I see they need a raise. I don't like pulling funds and finding the funds for this year and then not knowing what we're gonna budget and what we're gonna have for next year. Cause then I see way higher amounts in the coming years and we have to stick to these rates cause you can't take back a raise. So I see the need, but I say we wait until next year. Cause I wanna make sure that the city and everybody isn't losing more money because we're just trying to hurry up and help people. I see the need, I get it. However, I don't like the idea of we gotta fix it now, and then come budgeting season, oh, we don't have it, and then we're $90,000.
I totally understand what you're
I
saying.
don't agree with
Yeah.
that.
I mean, that's a decision, that's why we're here.
Can I ask a question, Scott? Kelly, and you probably maybe don't really answer this, are there people in this community that are driving to Kewanee that you know of, that possibly you could attract with this? I know that it's gonna be a guess on your part.
People that live in the Algoma area, that are driving out to work for them.
Yeah, because of that wage.
I do not know of anybody that's doing that. I
I
do
didn't
have.
think you would, but I just.
I do have a former member that used to live here in Algoma, and she ran a lot with us. She moved, I'm gonna say west of Tippecanoes, out in that general area, I don't know exactly where she lives. She does spend a little time here in Algoma coming back, but she spends a lot more time sitting at the Luxembourg station. She's 5 miles from Luxembourg, she's 10 miles from Algoma, but she gets $3 an hour more sitting at the Luxembourg station. And she goes, how can I not? I
Yes,
said,
absolutely.
yeah, I can't argue with you. I don't have that argument.
Sure.
Not to degrade the subject at hand here, but we have a huge agenda and we gotta move on. There's been a lot of great discussion. I totally understand and agree with where you're coming from. I'm just gonna leave it at this and use an analogy in my world in business. If an employee comes into my office and says, if it's a high producing employee that I have to have, and says, I have an opportunity to go elsewhere for 40 grand more a year, I have one of two choices. Either I match it or come close and keep them, or I let them go away. What happens after that, you figure it out. It is, not to make it black and white, but we need to, having the $40,000 and then having the 25, and depending on, I know that we have a great group of people and managers that understand the task at hand here, whether it's 5 here, 2 here, 7 here. Again, we're not talking about lining somebody's pockets and giving them a big $40,000 bonus. This is a basic necessity or need. So again, unless there's further discussion, I'm just gonna go out on a limb here. I would actually like to make a motion to approve this, to be in line with Casco and Luxembourg and Kewanee's for the EMS with their wages. I would make that motion right now today, and I know that that may not be the popular choice as Leah put it, but we have to do something. We cannot continue to kick this can down the road. It needs to be done and dealt with, and then we need to figure it out for next year, 2023 budgeting.
Can you clarify your motion?
Which
I'll
way,
second
which
it.
salary you want?
I would go 10-9, was it 10-9 and 7?
10, 9, and 7.
10-9 and 7 as proposed.
I'll second that.
There's a second. Kevin or Lee? Lee? Okay.
Yeah.
Aaron, could you do a roll call on that?
Okay. Before we get there, I wanna make sure I got all this. So Scott motioned to approve the wages to be in line with Kewanee and Luxembourg, which would be 10 for an advanced EMT, 9 for a basic EMT, and 7 for a driver as proposed. That motion has been seconded by Lee Dashlet.
Yes.
Effective what date?
June
What does it work out with payroll? Would June 1 be applicable?
We do our payroll monthly, so
Then it
whatever,
would be, yeah,
the
then
beginning of
June
the
1
month.
would be, yes.
So we would have to then recommend this to the council and then put this on the council meeting
Correct.
in June.
In the meantime, are we gonna have a discussion with the department heads and have a kind of an inkling where that money might come from? Is that a possibility or not?
Sure. We're gonna have to.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the wages to be in line with Kewanee Luxembourg at 10 for an advanced EMT, 9 for a basic, 7 for a driver as proposed effective June 1st payroll. And that was made by Scott Meverden, seconded by Lee Dashlet, and a roll call vote on that. Pavic,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Piarkey,
No.
Boer,
Yes.
Dashlet,
Yes.
Mehring,
Yes.
Lautenbach,
Yes.
Meverden.
Yes.
The ayes has it.
Okay, motion passes, okay. Okay, then the next item that we're moving on to is, wait a minute, did I already switched things, okay. The progress on updating the long-term care, Amber and John, which one would like to talk about that?
This is Amber's baby.
Okay, okay.
I wouldn't say it's my baby. Okay, you guys should have all received a memo, I think it was placed at your spots there, about the updates from the last transition team meeting. As of May 5th, when we had the meeting, everything that we are supposed to have done has been done. Jean has been providing the buyers with everything they need. Just kind of going through here to make sure I touch on all these points. There was some discussion on the payout of leave time. It was asked of the buyers if they would consider allowing us to transfer the hours over to them rather than paying everyone out. The buyer said they would be okay, but they either want it all or none to avoid confusion. So that's something that the medical center board is going to have to decide on, if they want to pay everything out or if they want to transfer the hours over to the buyers. And if they decide they want to transfer it, then we'll do an amendment to the agreement stating that we'll transfer it to them. Either way, it's going to be paid out. It's just a matter of if it's paid out to the employees or paid out to the buyers so they can fund those hours. The legacy sick time that was on the books has already been paid out per the Med Board's decision and per the operating transfer agreement. There is a list of contracts and agreements that Jean graciously put together that listed everything that's out there and pending, things that need to be renewed. For example, their copy machine, they need to still utilize a machine. They have to have a printer, copier, fax in their office. So there's a possibility that they will have to renew that. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Jean. You're welcome. Thanks, Matt. Okay. Okay. Kevin, you want to take one and pass it down? Okay, so this is her list of the contracts and agreements and things like that that are in place and or need to be renewed. So one of the things we talked about was, for example, the copy machine. They need to have it. If the contractor won't allow them to renew it on a month-to-month and they have to renew it for 1 year, the buyer doesn't want that contract. So then what we will do is we'll look within the city departments to see who can utilize it. Could it be here or could it be down at, say, Public Works, because I believe they're without a copier right now. Theirs broke last year and we decided not to replace it, so that's something that we could take in here and just finish out the lease, or just buy it out if there's a buyout clause. So, and I believe there was about, when she calculated it out, to do the buyouts would be around $35,000. So it's a good chunk of change, but not overwhelming. If the buyer decides they will keep the contract, they can, but they are not obligated to. So that $35,000 could come down if they say, yeah, well, we decided we do want that machine, so we'll take it over. It is in the agreement that they are not taking anything over, that is to protect them so they can pick and choose. The outstanding debts is the next section on there. There are 3 loans currently out. The WRS unfunded liabilities. What's listed there is only the Med Center portion, not the full amount. The Bank of Luxembourg parking lot bond anticipation note, and then what's outstanding to the general fund. The last payment dates are listed. The payment that was required is shown, and then what they actually paid is shown. So you can see on the parking lot ban, they actually paid quite a bit more than they were required to. So that's dropped that balance quite a bit. So 166 is after that payment. They paid their quarterly payment due to the general fund that they had committed to paying. I fully anticipate they're gonna pay the next one. So that's not an issue there in my eyes. I do have it calculated that these loans will be paid off out of the sale funds. So then at the bottom, you got the general. Gene's providing everything to the buyers that they need. All payments are being made as required, and in some cases, like the parking lot ban, more. And everyone involved is keeping an eye on the liabilities of the Med Center. And it was noted multiple times during the meeting that they fully understand we need to make sure we're covering our liabilities. So,
Hang on, Taylor.
yep,
So you have it calculated that all of these balances are gonna be paid from the funds we get from the sale?
mhm,
So essentially, we're selling a building but breaking even?
pretty close. Not quite. You'll come back with a little more.
It-
It, well, and then, yes, if there's money left in the bank accounts, then it backfills.
I apologize, I had to leave the room. The highlighted contracts are the ones that they're retaining or they don't want.
Those would be the ones where there's probable cost to the facility,
Okay,
if they choose not to. And when I did talk to the vendors, I personally talked to each vendor on the contract list, and I would ask them if there was any way that, what are the options here? And in some of them, it was just so simple as the buyer providing payer information,
Okay.
and they would just transfer the agreement and not charge us
okay,
a buyout fee.
okay,
But as you see yellow highlighted.
Yep.
Those are the ones that are a probable or possible hit, unless.
okay, all right.
Unless we can, talk to Barry and Sam. And what I did today was, like all of the inspection and servicing contracts, I went through every vendor one by one, made a explanation about some of the great things that each of these vendors have done for us.
Uh-huh,
The community service, the fact that someone drove in the middle of a snowstorm to come and fix our fire alarm system,
sure,
says a lot.
Sure.
And the relationships that we have forged, and that I hoped that they would consider that when they were making decisions, that sometimes the cheapest contract isn't necessarily the best.
sure.
And so that was the point I was trying to make to Barry today when I sent all of the inspection and servicing agreements. What I've been trying to do is to bite off pieces at a time, and each day send a group of contracts along with explanations about what we've been doing, and then they have that to work on.
Okay, so this is all I'm asking is that you've talked with everybody on this?
Yes,
Okay, and the ones that are highlighted are the ones that would have a monetary impact on the sale?
correct.
Correct.
That we may have to buy out.
Everybody else has been pretty copacetic with what's been going on.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. It's really all I needed to know.
Any other questions for Amber? Or John? No? Oh, Jean, did you want to make a comment?
I passed around the financial for our
If she wants these back.
our accounts receivable. And this is one that I feel that we may need to talk to the attorneys about, to ensure that we are all on the same page, because if this is interpreted as we see it here, what we are assuming that, according to the terms of the agreement on page 12, they are saying that any money that comes in through June 30th goes to Algoma, and any money July 1st and after goes to the new owners. Well, the deal here is that our billing for services in June doesn't happen until July. So if this contract doesn't stipulate that those June services will stay with the facility And so it would appear from the way this is phrased that we would be looking at an impact of almost $253,000 of revenue from the facility that will go to the buyer, if I'm interpreting this the way I see it.
Yeah, but then I get that and I appreciate the diligence on that, Gene, but aren't they then gonna be taking over the operating costs for that same?
No.
The operating bills?
Well, the operating bills don't come till a month later too.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Instead of basing it on a date of service, they're dating it, they're starting with the date of transfer.
Correct.
So even though the services may have been provided in the previous month, if they're not paid until the next month, they are taking the money for the work that was done that we ended up paying.
Well, but they will also pay the bills.
Yeah,
For-
I'm saying like the WPS bill. June's bill's not gonna come till July.
July,
And we
and
will
they
have
will
to
pay
pay
that.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
pay
we're
it.
still
pay that.
responsible for that.
We'll get a final bill from WPS and utilities.
Well, that would be something to
Did
bring
we
up with
ask the
Jay.
lawyer about this, not
That's
just,
what we're asking.
That's what we're asking.
That would be
We
something
are
to bring up
asking
with
you.
Jay.
Because like even, and I don't think anybody really realizes, but you know, our Medicaid system changed in 2022. They went to a system called PDPM for the Medicaids. And they're going to be doing some rate adjustments, and those are gonna come for, January through March. Those are gonna come out in July and August, okay? So that money is gonna be put into our checking account from the Medicaid folks, and it's gonna be theirs, from how I see this. And we're talking there, I mean, that's, you know, it's not small, it's $45,000 there, and almost 40,000 on the next quarter coming after that. And so these are things that I'm concerned about, because this is money that rightfully, in my eyes, should stay with the facility, because we did provide those services at that time and paid the bills for the staff. So that, it's just something that I'm hoping you see fit to have an attorney take a look at it and just give us the clarification on standing. 'Cause if I'm seeing this the way it is, then this is an impact we're looking at.
And there is a different area that talks about outstanding bills, that's not this is the revenues. And the outstanding bills also say we have to have 2 weeks' worth of supplies available to them. So we have to purchase enough to carry them over for 2 weeks post the closing date. So this is the part, I'm sorry, this is the part, and I'm gonna be negative here, so you know, the contract that was signed is $10 for all supplies that are part of that facility.
And equipment. Everything
Supplies and
is-
equipment was a $10 contracted amount. So all of this that when we talk about what you need to supply, what you need, we should be doing, should we fix this? That's all part of that $10 that you received as a city for those services. So that's the part that I have the most issue with, but, anyway. But for your question, the part with the bills that we have to pay that are outstanding, that's a different section of the contract. This is the revenues piece. So there's other things that we're responsible for.
Yeah.
We're paying Jake anyways, we might as well just have Jake look at it. That's we concluded.
I thought that the lawyer was open to get any of these questions at any time. I didn't realize that it had to come to council for Jake to look at it. So couldn't these concerns already have been covered and asked? Or the attorney, whoever it is?
Jake Boswick hasn't looked at this at all. Mike from Davis and Kelso, I'm pretty sure his name is Mike.
I think Kelso is probably.
Yeah,
Cell
he
towers.
does, he specializes in business and real estate transfers, and he looked over the agreement. So I think he probably would be the best one to address the questions
Sure.
too.
That's have him take a look.
This week also, just as a final update, the employees received their warrant notification. Mayor, your copy is with Amber, but, we had to, let the employees know that the warrant notice is phrased in such a way that it causes quite a bit of alarm, because it states that the facility is closing. In fact, we know it's not, but, the way that the the attorney has it and everything, we can't vary from that language. It's stipulated by the state of Wisconsin on how that letter has to be written. And literally, all I did was fill in a date and sign my name. So those went out to the employees and,
Like trying to get a referendum passed.
Yeah, we had to do the
Confusing as
same
mud.
thing with the referendum. We couldn't put it in the way we wanted to do it, so understood.
Are the, I mean, but it's been explained to the employees that,
what I did was,
Verbally?
I went back to the attorney and I said, they're gonna head for the exits. If I got a letter like this that said that according to the terms of the sale contract, your new owner has no obligation to keep you on staff and in fact may lay you off for up to 6 months.
wow,
And no guarantee that there is a promise of wages, et cetera. So that's what it says on the letter. So, you know, I took that to Joan and said, as a board, could you please do some staff education and explain to them what the federal and the state WARN requirements are, and that they should not be unduly alarmed by this letter. That doesn't matter, it's doing it anyways.
well, I mean, so they did receive that, you said, this week, or they are
On the
receiving it?
16th, they got the first letter from
Okay.
Joan, and then on the 17th, they got the WARN notice.
Yeah.
And then that had to be sent to the Department of Workforce Development, and it had to be posted within the facility in 2 locations.
Huh. Verbal clarification goes a long way. I mean, I understand a piece of paper is a piece of paper, but, you know, hey guys, this is standard operating procedure, it has to say this.
I've done that,
Okay,
but,
okay.
you know, the
Thank
thing
you.
is, it's still one more stressor in the sale process that is
Yeah.
absolutely not necessary for the people I work for.
Okay.
Thank you, Gene.
Okay. Then we don't have to take any action here, it was just informational, correct? Okay, then we're moving on to the new business, the meeting notice posting, Aaron?
Okay, so in your packets, you would have seen a draft resolution. Currently, we post our notices at the utilities, the library, 2 places here at City Hall, and on the website. Back in 2015, that was made a thing that we no longer have to do this. Right now, we're posting our notices up at the utilities. The utilities has not opened their doors yet. Everybody still goes through the drive-through. So it's, I don't wanna say it's kind of a waste of time, but it's kind of a waste of time to post it there. We would still certainly send it to the utilities and tell them that if they wanna post it, they can post it. Oftentimes on, you know, Friday afternoon or whenever I'm sending the agenda out, I'm sending it up there, going up there, taping it to the outside of the door. You know, is it doing a lot of good? I reached out to other municipalities. They do it at City Hall and on their website. So I wanted to put this in front of you guys to see if this was something you guys thought was okay, if we could follow suit with this, or if you wanted to stick with posting it in 3 locations.
Moved.
Okay.
Got a motion, got a second.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Okay, Algoma Youth Club summer hours.
You can go ahead with that.
Sure. So, one of the topics that came up, and we would have talked about it at our Parks meeting, but due to lack of agenda items, we didn't have a Parks meeting this month, is keeping the youth club open for the summer. It is my recommendation to not have it open for the summer on Friday and Saturday nights due to the lack of attendance. I've been told from our staff down there that summer attendance is very, very poor. And by very poor, I mean 6 to 7 kids on a Friday and Saturday night. As you know, right now, I, as your clerk, am also filling in the role of recreation down there. So I'm going down there and stocking it and doing inventory and doing the till, taking my hours, going down there and making sure everything is kept up for the summer. My staff that is down there has told me, you know, it's not worth us for us to be here. It's not worth it for you to pay us for 6 kids to come in the door, 7 kids to come in the door, however many it is. There is no programming that goes on at the youth club on a Friday and a Saturday night, so it's not like we would be stopping that, or not having that. We would still have our summer parks program, that opens up after, I believe, the 4th of July when summer school is done. But I guess it was recommended to put it in front of you guys to see if that was an option, or if we wanted to continue to have staff paid down there, continue to have inventory down there, for those summer months. My suggestion was to close it second week in June and reopen it, you know, right after Shanny Days, kinda to stay in line with the school.
Since then, I've been getting some people contacting me. They don't really wanna see it closed, because kids in summer, they look forward to going there, and there's still, even if we were open one day a week, like Saturday, or try it this year and keep a tally, and then if it's next year, then we decide to close during the summer. Some parents are like, yeah, we should have it open, so I don't know, I wanted to bring it to you guys, cause first we thought no, but now I'm getting all this feedback from other people. Guy emailed me, a couple other people talked to me, so I'm not sure.
I personally feel like if we start closing it, it's the first step to closing it.
Yes.
Even if there's nobody there, it's open. It's a community building. They know it's there, they know it's open, they can go there if they want. They got phones now, that's why there's no attendance, but closing it part-time is the first step to closing it for good.
That's where I'm looking at it now again.
Is,
Go ahead, John.
we offer visitor or guest membership on a 1 or 2 night basis. In case they have someone visiting from out of town they want to go down to the youth club with, we have provisions for them their guests to be guest members.
Yes.
Okay.
However, that was not really,
Clear as mud.
yeah,
Enforced? Yeah, it wasn't
enforced.
enforced.
So,
It was
my
the grace of God. Come on in.
Well, if we're gonna look at it, we can make it
my
more lucid.
my other reason for wanting this temporary closure, and Steve, I totally get what you're saying. We didn't collect memberships down there all the time. It was very, like Matt said, clear as mud. So what we did was brainstormed and came up with a fee schedule. We all remember that. We went back and forth. Our adult members now all pay fees there. They've all paid their yearly memberships. Everything's good to go. We know who is there. We know what days they're there, and we know what their purpose for being there is. My thought for having this closure was it would give us a chance to put something together to send to the schools. I don't want to say a contract, but a template that says, this is my child's name, this is the contact information, this is the parent's name, and then their membership payment, and we'd get that back. We'd also implement a check-in, check-out. If you go down there on a Friday or a Saturday night, there are a lot of kids, and by a lot of kids, I mean a lot.
Like what, 95 or something?
Sometimes
More than
70,
that.
sometimes 80. You would know, you were just there.
Dude,
There's
sit
a
on the
lot.
porch and take a
So
look.
I want to take some time to, or if we would happen to have somebody in the rec manager role, to put something like that together so we have a better traction of who's there, who's coming and going, and for liability reasons. If little Johnny breaks his leg and he breaks it in the youth club, I have no record saying that little Johnny was there. I have nothing. So that this closure is also giving me, or a rec manager, whoever, some time to put something together, get it out to the schools when they do their mailings, so it's going home to the parents, posting it at other locations so that kids who aren't at the high school or the grade school or are homeschooled, anything like that. So we're making them aware of, these are the rules for being here. This is the contact information should little Johnny have a peanut allergy, something like that. Right now, it's 90 kids coming in the door, and luckily our high school workers know who the majority of them are, but you could have 5 people there from a different city, village, whatever, and we have no idea. If little Johnny breaks his leg on the floor, I don't know who to call. As a worker, I have no log of saying, this is who was here, this is who checked in today, this is who checked out. You know, so it kind of puts us in a pickle, and that's what I wanted to use this time to do. But again, Steve, I completely understand what you're saying.
And I get your concern, but in today's age, little Johnny has a cell phone.
Or you could do a form starting June
Yes.
first, you fill out a form as you come in or bring it back, or you can't come back.
My problem with that is I don't believe that I will have enough staff to keep it staffed throughout the summer.
Oh.
No, that's
Like everywhere else.
2 nights?
Short of staff.
2 nights a week?
On a Saturday and a Sunday in summer, so yeah.
Friday.
Friday, Saturday.
Just,
Friday
just
and
the
Saturday.
evening. You would be
Just
open,
evening.
you'd be open until 6 o'clock or
From
something?
6 a.m. or from 6 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. until 10 p.m. Those are the
Closed.
current hours. 6:30 p.m. to 10
All right,
p.m.
so you wouldn't be open during the day on
Correct.
Saturday?
And what do we pay them?
Roughly.
Nine,
Managers.
7, 9,
11, yeah.
just barely over minimum wage.
Yeah, wages is really nothing.
The cost is.
Just knowing the group that I have down there right now, how many are graduating, how many are in summer sports, and then my managers who are parents who are also teachers who want their summers off, I am going to struggle to keep it open, and that's where you will see postings on the Facebook page and where else that, hey, we're closed tonight. I don't have the staff to run it.
How old are you gonna be to work there?
I believe 16 and then over 18 to be a or 18 and graduated to be a supervisor.
It is 16, it's not?
Yeah, but I have to have at least one supervisor who's 18.
Yeah.
That'd be your counter.
Gotta have somebody there 18 or older.
I could argue both ways, I mean, but I do agree with Steve that you're setting a precedence. If you don't have the people, you don't have the people. But if we do a temporary closing, the precedence is set and it's probably never gonna bounce back. I mean, when I was a kid, it was open Monday night through every night of the week, 6:30 to 9, and then Friday nights and
summer?
Saturday nights, 6:30 to 10, plus Saturday afternoons and Sunday
In the
afternoons
summer?
from 1 to 4.
It wasn't
In the summer?
though. In the summer though?
I was gonna say I don't
No.
ever remember it being open in the
No,
summer.
not in the summer.
In
In
the
the
summer.
summer,
Because
you
the
did the
park is
park
open
thing.
in the summer and you have park programming in the summer.
Well, do we-
That's
I-
Yeah.
On the weekends?
You bet.
Yeah, I'm admittedly surprised that it's open now. Pardon me,
You bet.
everybody who, on the weekends, because I've missed that, but yeah, when we were kids, it was closed in the summer.
Yeah. It's just during the school year. that's
Shows
the
how
only
much
time
I
it was
remember.
open.
Tells you how much you went down
And then the
there.
rest of it was done at the park during
Yeah,
the
yeah, we
park
know what
program.
Scott told his parents
And
now.
that's kind of the flip that we look at here. So
Yes,
the
now
youth
this is
club
on
open during the
videotape and
school
you're
year,
gonna know.
The park is open during the summer. Like that's the flip that we look at. So I that's what I look at it as is I have a park program open this summer. I have parks staffed for the summer, Monday through Thursday. And now my youth club is closed, and now my park is gonna close after Shanty Days, so my youth club opens back up. That's how I looked at it.
Was there better traffic one night over the other? If it was Friday or Saturday, if it was one day?
I wouldn't have any way to judge that.
We'd have to do it this year to see, and then next year make a decision if we want to close a day. You'd have to tally.
What's the
Yeah, I'm just concerned looking at the staff that I have now, who's graduating and going off to college, I'm concerned about staffing it. So if you guys are okay with, the random closures here and there, or every other weekend, or whatever it ends up being, then that's fine. But that's just my concern is, I also would need this summer to get more staffing for next year to replace those who have graduated.
And the next question is it a community center or is it a youth club? I
The
was told
outside of
both.
the building says Algoma Community Center.
So I mean, if we're gonna name it Algoma Community Center, let's eliminate the youth center because it's one person's calling and saying, well, it's a youth club. It's for the youth. But really, it's not. It's a community center. It's for everybody. But he says, well, what's the sense of calling it a youth club if the younger kids get kicked out,
I remember going down there and they're playing basketball in the gym, and yeah, there was guys.
Oh, yeah,
There was
that's-
30-year-old, 20, 30.
And years ago, that's what it
guys
was. It
playing
was
ball.
called the Algoma Youth Club. I mean, but everybody.
Do we need a decision on this right now tonight,
Into
Aaron?
the discussions of certain places, one person says, well, it's a community center, it's not a youth club.
I guess if everybody thinks it should stay open, then we'll just stay open. If it has to be closed because of staffing, it has to be closed. One night or 2 nights, that's all. I guess we were looking for guidelines because we didn't have our meeting, and it'd still have to come to council anyways.
Yeah, if there's not a real consensus, I will, and I will reach out to the staff and see who wants to work for June and where we're gonna go.
I would
from
say
there.
let the committee make that decision, and if it gets into some mud or something, well, then it can come to the council, but I mean,
We still plan on being open for anybody who's doing a rental as far as a
Right.
birthday party, an event, anything like that. That we still have booked June, July, August. I still have workers lined up for those already.
I mean, you got the committee, let them say, yeah, so it stay open until you see you got problems. If you can't, you gotta shut it down. No different than the restaurants, when they got nothing, they lock the doors.
Well, if community fights on it and says, yeah, we want it open because we want it open, you gotta put it back on the community saying, okay, if we keep it open,
Right.
your kids better use it.
And- But if that's what, you know, if the committee finds out that it's not working out, then, you know. That's just my feeling, it's,
Staffing is an issue no matter what.
oh, yeah.
Everywhere. You could bump those rates up to $20 an hour and it'd probably still be an issue.
So you'll poll your staff, right, to find out what their availability is
I will
going
create
to
a
be?
schedule for June as if we're gonna keep it open and never had this discussion. And then I'm also going to ask them to track June attendance. As far as memberships, I'm going to keep forward with the same plan and start collecting them to be in line with the school year. I feel like it'd be easier on our staff and it would just be, gives me more time to put something together. We already have, everybody who's not a youth, that letter already went out to them, they're already aware, everybody's paid their membership, and they're gonna go May first through April 30th, and we'll keep the youth in line with, you know, let's just say September 1st through August 31st.
So that's your pool league and your sheep's head players and things like that?
Yep, and I would say we have about 50 memberships that we collected already.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was good. And even the walkers came up to City Hall or left me an envelope with their membership in it, so
Pool,
it was
the
great
pool
to see.
league,
The
the
pool
pool
league,
guys even
yep,
paid.
they did it.
Yep.
Okay, nice job.
Right.
Next.
Okay, moving on to the next item then, the public open intoxicants.
Okay, so, you saw a draft resolution in your packet along with a map, for this proposed district. I don't know if anybody got a chance to review the PPP meeting minutes, but this is something that we've been circling around at that committee. The city of Sturgeon Bay has this, they have what's called this public entertainment district. But what it allows is public open intoxicants to go from place to place to place within this designated area. It promotes tourism. I guess that would be your main focus of it, is allowing somebody to, I'm gonna use the Anarchy Brewery, allow somebody to go from the Anarchy Brewery, walk up Steel Street, look at the shops, and have an open intoxicant in their hands while they're doing so. That's,
In an approved container.
yes, so I've had conversation with the attorneys, I've had conversation with Sturgeon Bay, I've had conversation with the Department of Revenue who handles this as well. Our attorney, Jim Downey, did review this resolution. He agrees with the language in the resolution. He did recommend that I reach out to the Department of Revenue to see what they say. Would any bar, restaurant, winery, brewery participating in this, would they be in jeopardy of losing their liquor license? So in conversation with the Department of Revenue, as long as that establishment is following the rules about open intoxicants, they're not gonna get cited or lose their license. And what the rules are is that if you want to have a beer in a plastic container, you can walk out the door, no questions asked. Same thing if you would have it in a can. Glass is a different story. If you would go up and order a Jack and Coke and they put it in a plastic container for you without a cover and a seal, and that's how they served it to you, knowing that you intend to walk out the door with that, they would be cited or could lose their liquor license after citations. If they give you this plastic cup, they put a lid on it, and they put something as simple as a piece of tape on it. That is in compliance with the open intoxicants rule that they have to abide by. What you do when you walk out with that sealed container is up to you. Then you have to be in compliance with the city, municipalities, ordinances. So that's where you see the resolution in front of you tonight. It would suspend that ordinance to see how this goes. This was very positively received by the city of Sturgeon Bay, by their police department. They didn't have any issues with it. So I guess I wanna
All right,
ask
so
what questions do you guys have?
no tax stamp is required on a liquor sale? Just a sealed container?
Just to seal, and in talking with the guy at the Department of Revenue, he said it could be something as simple as a piece of Scotch tape. Now, would they like to see, you know, a sticker on the top of it that says Millie's Pub and Grill or Fishtail Ale? Absolutely. Do they have to do that? No.
Okay.
As far as a beer is concerned, beer does not apply to that. It
Wine?
would just be liquor. Wine would have to be in that same thing.
In a sealed container, okay. All right.
Real, I guess, I don't know, unless anybody's got any specific questions, I mean, from a very high level, just go
I
ahead,
have one.
Steve.
I'm sorry, Scott. You draw the line down Fourth Street, but there's two bars between Fourth Street and Fifth Street.
It's to the alley.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, like, if they're standing next to that bar, are they still, they're standing in that little between Hooked Up and Russ's old restaurant. They're standing in that little alleyway there. It's not covered here.
Correct.
Should it be?
Technically, I mean,
So you'd like it to extend
Well,
to
I'm
that
just
alley?
asking before we have trouble.
I think common sense road would kick in.
Could- yeah.
That's- I'm just bringing it up, yep.
Yeah, you walk past, Fifth Street, walking down Fremont, you probably get a little talking to.
Okay. As long as you're okay with it, that was my only thing.
Common sense when it comes to that kind of
Okay.
stuff.
Miles? Yeah, I've done it. Maybe.
So beer is one thing. Beer, you can do that. It's the liquor where it kind of gets a little sketchy.
All right.
So,
I move we accept this resolution.
Second.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
No.
Now, do you wanna do a roll call vote?
No, this is,
Yeah, just
we can if you want, but otherwise this resolution will be in front of you in June. Does anybody have any questions about the
Okay.
map or anything? We tried to include everybody who's got a liquor license, Class B liquor license, and that's why we went over the bridge to include Smashed on the Rocks.
Right.
So this is a temporary suspension.
Yep,
We'll revisit it next year.
in probably December is when we should probably start looking at it to see if we wanna go forward with it, cause it
So-
expires December 31st.
Kevin and I will have an opportunity to hear from all of our residents that live in
Yep.
those areas.
And if there is an issue and it comes, July and this isn't good, we can call it back and we can change it. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Get one question, to all the people celebrating New Year's Eve then, they can get in trouble after midnight?
It'll be 84 below. I wanna see the guy that walks between the bars.
He ain't gonna know
Never had a
that.
beer sickle?
He's got all the
Okay, so then we
antifreeze in
just
it.
need
Yeah, so I guess
everybody,
the next step with this is you'll just see it on the June council meeting, exactly the
Okay.
way you saw it here for
Okay.
approval, and then we'll try it, and
Okay.
if there's issues, then we address them when they come up.
Perfect.
But does anybody have any other questions? Like I said, we had our attorneys review it, met with the Department of Revenue and Sturgeon Bay Bay's Police Department speak very, very highly of this.
try it.
Excellent.
She did, they all said
then are we on to the TRC change order?
Well,
We really don't have much to say, it's gotta be done.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. So this actually started back when Jared was still here, so Matt and I didn't know a whole lot about it. And we sat in on a conference call with TRC saying that we need to do some additional well testing as a result of something that was started a while back, and we were kind of caught off guard by it. But in talking with our partners in this whole scheme of things down at International Paper, they are the biggest stakeholders after us. And he talked to his corporate counsel and they said, no, go ahead, we need to do it. So the change order is for $5,000. It's to do additional PFAS testing in the downstream wells. So it's adding $5,000 onto their annual contract. Of that, the city pays, I think, 54% or 57%, somewhere in there, and then the rest is billed out to the
That's for
potential
that
responsible
property
parties.
that's out on
The-
54.
yeah, the old
Just, you know,
landfill.
so
Yep.
Anybody's listening, they know kind of.
Yeah,
what it's
yeah,
for.
the city has an old landfill
Right.
out off of 54 to the south that is closed and capped. But under the court orders, court decrees, and EPA regulations, we have to monitor and test certain things that they tell us to. This is something that will never, ever go away. It will always have to be maintained with a cap.
Do we need action on this?
It's,
Information.
Needs a change order for it's got
yeah,
$5,000.
it's gotta go to council for
And-
approval,
And
but.
just so everybody's clear, and yes, me and Amber did sit down and had quite the lengthy meeting with them. It's not my concern that we're testing, well, it is my concern that we're testing for PFAS. It's my bigger concern, as long as we continue to go down gradient and continue to test for PFAS, which is a good deal or a great idea to take care of everybody that's down gradient from us. But these test sites aren't just random, they're random picked test sites. They're not ports, they're actually making these test sites and they're testing into the aquifer, okay? At what point down gradient, if they, right now for PFAS, there are no standards, there's zero. So every test is hot. As long as there's something that shows up, it's showing that now there's a standard and it's hot. And as we continue to move down gradient, 11 miles, as a crow flies, Kewaunee County also has a landfill. And at what point, who's on the hook for this PFAS? Is it the city of Algoma and our landfill? Or, so there's a little bit of concern and there's a lot of questions that come of this. We're gonna start this next outside ring and see what this brings us. And if this outside ring is hot, then we move to the next outside ring and we come back with another change order and have more conversation. So just to bring everybody to light of, this isn't a one-time $5,000 change order. This could continue and continue and continue and continue.
Could snowball.
Is there somebody from there that could come in and answer that?
No, right now there's not.
There's no
Because right now, I'm gonna go back to the standards of PFAS. There are none. So we are the bar. The city of Algoma is setting the bar for the standards of PFAS testing for the state of Wisconsin. We are one now of 5 municipalities in the state of Wisconsin that are PFAS testing.
So it's a new test.
So we're getting a baseline.
That is correct. We're setting the
And if our
baseline.
baseline is 0, does that mean we continue testing?
Yes, that means we continue testing.
And for how long?
That, they won't tell us that.
Yeah.
Well,
That's where we have the issue.
I mean, it'd be one thing if we said, if we have 0 over the course of the next 5 years, then we should assume that we do not have a PFAS leak into the aquifer. Even if you add on, if 0 for 5 years, and then you go to every 10 years testing for it,
Yep.
you know,
If they follow suit, the DNR would follow suit like they do on the wastewater facility side of it.
mhm.
I think, John, you hit the nail on the head. If we could test 0, they would probably set a standard for us, okay, you give us 3 more tests over X.
Right.
And we're gonna bypass that test for 5 years for you, and then we're gonna do 1, and if it's 0, we're gonna push you off for 5 years.
Right, it's sort of like I hate to make this analogy, but it's sort of like how often you get a colonoscopy, you know, I mean.
I don't know if anybody knows about that.
Kinda explains that.
But if you get a 0, you know, you're on a 10-year program, or a 5-year program, if you
If you're
have
a
a
9,
hit.
you're gonna be
Right.
back in 9 months.
Or 3-year program.
What's correct.
They don't have a standard set yet, so.
So we're.
At this moment in
We're
time,
guinea pigs.
they are testing these wells. If these wells come back with levels, then we have to go to these wells, and we'll be back with another change order almost immediately.
Yeah, it's a
So-
man-made chemical and.
It is, and I'm not trying to scare anybody, but I'm bringing it to light that this might not just be the one and done $5,000 change order.
Understood.
There's-
But at the same time, there's nothing we can do about it. We gotta We can't say no.
Guessing before.
We have a guy that entered us into a contract to start this testing.
Right. That's why I'm saying, I mean, it's.
Alright.
Does that preclude us from entering a class action suit if we do have some? With the
No.
manufacturer?
No. And let me, so I don't misspeak, and I think I'm gonna let Amber. Everybody that has any stake in our landfill, it's not just the city. Amber, there is how many of us?
There's supposed to be 5.
And there's one
But
that's.
one of them was Badger Tillings Massey, who is no longer Badger Tillings Massey. It was sold off, but it wasn't sold off as whole, it was sold off as pieces, and I can't keep track of it. Jeff,
kind of a nightmare.
Jeff was kinda trying to work on it when he was here, and then he left.
Yeah, you
And
can't
then
sell
when
off that
J-
liability, though.
Right, and Quarles and Brady, who is our bond attorneys, is one of the buyers of a portion of the Badger Tillings Massey, and so we've been billing them, they are not paying. So that is just sitting in our accounts receivable. At some
I hope
point,
you're adding
we're
2%
gonna
a
have to
month.
do, that portion is like
So small.
3%
matter,
or
still
5%. It's a
2%.
very, very small amount. Now, it's starting to add up because it's been going on for 6, 7 years that they haven't been paying. They paid a portion and then they stopped paying, and so at some point, an administrator's gonna have to work with an attorney to get that straightened out and figure out who's supposed to be paying and
Got it.
whatnot.
Thank you.
So, I guess the answer to your question, John, about a class action lawsuit is theoretically we would be suing ourselves because everybody that has any interest in that
Right.
is in it. Does that make sense?
There's always the manufacturer of the man-made chemical.
That is correct.
So all we're looking for from the Finance and Personnel Committee is approval to send this forth to the June council meeting.
Okay,
So moved.
okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Okay, then cemetery land transfer, number? Move.
Second. Haven't we,
I don't think this needs much discussion. It's been
man.
pending for a long time, and when Jared left, we picked it up and ran with it, so.
Jackie was.
So moved.
We do,
couple
we do
turns
have
ago.
to give, some credit to our attorney,
Yes.
because this has been on the list since, this was, and that's why the numbering is out of order here for resolution 114, and you can see later on that we jumped down to the 20s. This was on the previous administrator's to-do list before he left.
Yep.
We were scratching our heads on how do we do this, and Amber made a call to Downey, and I would say within an hour, we had this. So,
I called him, I said, Jim, I'm swamped. I don't know what else I can do or how many more hours I can put in. Please just write me a resolution. And within an hour, he had it to us.
Well,
All right.
we got a
Go.
motion in a second. We
Yeah.
can end this very
Seconded
quickly.
it.
I motioned it.
Jake?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jake, second.
all in favor?
Aye.
someone get a stake and put it through his heart, please.
Move on to approval of seal coating city streets and sidewalks.
Everybody has the Scott's bids in front of us, just came up from the Public Works, meeting on Monday. I will answer any questions that anybody has along the way, but everything that is on this paperwork is exactly what you see currently on Church Street or on Fremont Street. So there's also a map attached, highlighted in yellow, you can see the streets. It breaks them down on the first page for $165,019. I'm not gonna read them off, but there's 1 through 5. Anybody that has a question on that, or does that make Scott?
I only got 2 questions.
Okay.
Right there.
One is, there's several roads that are, I would say, in town.
I have these things that.
How did we come to the conclusion, who made the decision? You made the decision on those are the ones that have the worst needs, or
That is
that
correct.
need to be? Okay.
Sat down with Pete at the utilities,
Okay.
went through kind of our 5-year capital outlay, where we're not gonna be in some time, and that's kinda how we sat through this.
Okay.
I'm gonna get to the last page, and everybody's probably looking, why are we doing Evergreen?
That was my second question is, are we gonna split the bill?
That is correct. So if you
It
see
should
this
say it
bill
on there.
for Evergreen, our portion we would be splitting this exactly in half, but for the 623 feet in front of the Evergreen Cemetery where we own both sides of the road. Everything else would be split directly in half. Our half of the bill would be $80,262.
So that's the half.
Okay, that would be our half, okay? And just to back up to page 2, because I skipped one, that would be South Street from Division to Highway 42 would be $45,600 for a grand total of $290,881. That would be the total cost, okay? There is a 15% contingency added to this, $43,632.15. I don't see anything that we would even need to use $1 of this money, okay? Last year, Scott's gave us a price, when they were all said and done, it was exactly to the dollar of what they bid and quoted me. And I see it happening this year, not dictating off of it. I like to put some contingency in there just for some safe, that Scott's is here and something goes wrong, I don't have to have them sent out of town. I have to have a meeting in a week and come back. I don't foresee using $1 of this 43,000, okay? I believe that when this is all said and done, our bill will be $290,881, okay? But Aaron did put this together in resolution. There is the 15% contingency. The total dollar amount that you're looking at is $334,513.15. Go ahead, Scott.
I understand maybe in front of the, on Evergreen there in front of the cemetery, but from going all the way out to K, is that, not that I go out that way a lot, but.
But if the township's gonna do it, they're doing the whole shebang, and they're not gonna stop and,
Got it, okay.
you know, that's the only reason we're doing it.
That's the caveat, okay,
Right,
got it.
if we don't, the biggest problem's gonna be is, we say, no, we don't wanna get involved in it, it could be 5 to 10 years from now before they say, okay, then we'll put it in our budget for that then. Meanwhile, the road's gonna fall apart, we're gonna have nothing.
Got
And
it.
it's gonna be worse, that's the, I understand what you're
I
saying.
was just
and it
saying,
went through us.
80,000, we could do a lot more little.
Right,
a
and
couple
we
more
discussed that
small.
at our
Okay.
meetings, and
Alright.
we could do a lot more roads in town, but can you take that chance, because that road is, there's gonna be nothing left of it otherwise.
And this is all in, I mean, this is budget, capital.
Yes.
This would be capital outlay, is where this funding would be coming from. So just so everybody is clear, that this is leftover capital outlay from last year
From the Sixth Street project,
that we didn't use.
and we
Okay.
carried over.
So
If you
not saying we
remember-
have to go ahead, hurry up and use it, but that's what it is.
Well, I mean, kind of,
Well,
because it
yeah.
has to be used by the end of this year. But
Correct.
that,
So we
if you remember
decided-
during the budget season, we had talked about there's some extra money left. We can increase the amount for road work. And so
Okay, yep,
council
yep.
voted to put it all into chip
We
sealing.
decided to do this much in roads and then $40,000 in sidewalks.
I'll,
I just want to make a public comment, not questioning what you did or whatever, but I took a ride down South Street, which is the one we just added, and one block is really bad, and 2 blocks is pretty good, and there's a lot of really bad streets, and I wonder if in the future we could try to do smaller chunks of the streets that are bad, and I know they're all bad, but it's just a thought process for me, and
I wholeheartedly agree with you, Steve. And I just want to kind of walk everybody through this that isn't on the Public Works Committee, okay? The 2 blocks that are not really bad on South Street are really bad.
exactly.
And Steve says they're not really bad, and I have to agree with him. When you look at the first block,
compared to horrible.
is.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. Those actual 2 streets the 2 blocks going to the west are probably prime candidates for bad. Let's do something with them before we lose them,
And I
like
get
that
this,
first
I
block.
talk to Leland in the school, places do it. I get all that, and I wasn't questioning you.
No, not,
But, like the end of State Street over by Sunset is gravel.
mhm. See, and I think Kevin is gonna ask the question.
Gonna ask the question.
Why are we not doing Sunset? Okay,
Something with
I'm
the-
sorry. I agree with you, Kevin. I would like, Sunset's too far gone for me to do anything. I need to mill that out or completely remove it. I need to lay probably 95 feet of blacktop before I can even put something on it like this to do. I can't cold patch something that's already dug to the gravel. It's too far gone.
Can we mill it to gravel anyways? It'd be a lot better than now.
We
And
could
my
scar
four-wheel
fire it
drive
all
truck
off.
Can't even go on it.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more, Kevin, I know. I drive it myself on a daily basis.
I thought you were gonna put up slalom gates there.
Well, a gravel road would be better, literally. if we could put
BMX
the
trail or, yeah.
You can't put cones by the holes because you wouldn't be able to go down the road.
The same thing, $80,000 is a big number to bite off for Evergreen. I agree. It is actually at a stage where it's a good candidate to do something before it looks like sunset, and then we can't stick 80,000 into it. We need to stick 180,000 into it, so.
What is Sunset gonna cost, about 60,000?
For.
I wanna say it was like 300,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're like 310 or something, I think it's like
Because the
310.
infrastructure needs to be replaced
Yeah,
too.
me and Amber have those numbers, I have those numbers actually put together as
We
part of the
yeah.
community.
We actually applied for a grant last year to try and do that, and we were denied.
So from one end to the other.
Did we reapply?
That,
Yes,
it was first-time grant funding, one-time grant funding, so there's no reapplication for that particular one. But we are working with Robert E. Lee to try and apply for other sources.
Two other funding sources that we're looking for mill and overlay funding for that particular project. One of them, I think I'm gonna lose a lot of points, cause I don't have curb on both sides of the street, but I'm still putting my neck out there because it doesn't cost me anything.
All you do is tell you no.
That's right.
So I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, do you want a roll call, or can you just say aye?
Roll call because it's got money on it,
Yep.
I would say. Boer,
Yes.
Pavic,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Dashlet,
Yes.
Mehring,
Yes.
Kiarkey,
Yes.
Meverden,
Yes.
Lautenbach.
Yes.
Okay, then moving on to refinancing of unfunded liability bond discussion.
So I'm gonna try and keep this as quick and short as possible. The WRS unfunded liabilities bond was callable April 1st. In order to pay off a chunk of it at any given time, we have to put it into a loan at the bank where they will allow us to make that payment. Right now, as it sits, we can only make the scheduled payments each year as it's set up. So the Bank of Luxembourg has agreed to offer us, I believe it's 3.5%. They are holding that rate until after the June council meeting, because that's when I told them I would get formal approval from you guys to issue their loan. And they agreed reluctantly because rates are rising and quickly. So they're very gracious in giving that to us. But before we can issue the loan with them, we have to call the bond. So on your special council meeting, you're going to see paperwork from Quarles and Brady calling those bonds, and then they have to give 30 days notice to the bondholders that we're calling them and gonna pay them off. And then we'll issue the loan in June at Bank of Luxembourg to actually make those payments. What that does then is move all this debt over to Bank of Luxembourg, so when the sale of the Med Center closes, we can pay off the Med Center portion of the WRS unfunded liabilities. And that will leave just the utilities in the city.
Can you announce that, calling the bond?
You need a motion to go to.
I don't know that I need anything here because it's all on your council agenda already, so.
And my question is, do we have to have a firm closing date on the medical center?
No, because what we'll do is literally issue the loan at Bank of Luxembourg for the amount of the bonds. We're gonna have to pay a little bit in interest, but we'll just take that out of our operating costs. And then when we close, we can make that payment at any time. So the Bank of Luxembourg allows us to make payments at any time in any amount with no penalty.
Okay,
So then it just reduces the future interest.
all right.
So we don't need to take any more action?
Nope.
Then we're moving on to the discussion of the vacancy on the city council.
Okay, so as you were all informed, Ms. Piarkey has put her notice in, with an effective date of June 18th, so I will just give you the quick rundown options of what you guys like to do, and we can officially decide at the June council meeting. Option number 1 is to appoint somebody who is in that district, to the council seat. That appointment process would have that person apply for the position, and then we would interview them as a council, to see if that was a good fit for that spot. That spot would only be taken for the remainder of, Ms. Piarkey's term. Option number 2 is to do nothing and just leave it vacant until the election, so until somebody decides to take out papers in December. Option number 3 is possibly to have a special election for that. I started looking into that, and the first place that I called was the county and said, just give me a ballpark cost on what your cost to us would be to have a special election before I go and call WEC and see what dates we have to go. Just the county's cost for the programming and the publishing and everything like that would be just north of $10,000. So as soon as I heard the $10,000 number, I kind of just stopped, because if we would have this election in November, if we'd have it in November, we would have to, or that person would have to take out papers 3-4 weeks later in order to rerun for the next term. The county also advised me that it may entirely not be possible to have a special election because of where we are in the year, so we'd have to wait until April anyways. So as soon as they gave me the $10,000 number, I kind of just said, all right, I think we should recommend either option 1 or option 2. So what I'm looking for tonight is, would you like to go with option 1 or option 2? Because if you go with option 1, we'd like to post it, get it out on the website, social media, that kind of stuff. And if-
I would make a motion for option 1.
I'd second that, that's what we've always done in the past.
That's what we did prior, it was, they'd advertise it.
Post it and see if there's interest.
Correct, and then have them put an application in, you know, like a resume or whatever.
Okay.
And if no one applies, then we go to option 2.
Right.
Then we go out.
Yep.
But not option 3.
Let's say that there's only one individual that applies, or 3 individuals that apply. Is the process that we would go into closed session as a group or a body to discuss?
Well, we've never had more than one person apply in the years that I've been. It's been a long time.
My opinion is that it's an elected, it is an elected position. It shouldn't be appointed. We can run on 7, we don't need 8. And quorum would be 7, we'd have roughly 10 months.
Okay, I'd like to
Running
make
on
a
7.
comment on that. More than 20 years ago, when I got involved with politics, it's because somebody resigned and I came forward. What happened at that point, they asked to come to the council. Whoever was interested and put in their name, 3 or 4 of us came forward and put in our name and said, and we all came up to the podium and said, why do we want to do this? And then the council somebody made a motion. 2 different motions were made, so 2 of us were on it, and they just did a roll call vote. It was real quick and simple.
Yep.
But I don't think that we should leave the seat empty, because that district deserves to have 2 people representing them, and we should fill it, even if
And
it's
that
only.
district should be the one that chooses it,
Well,
not this
but the
council.
people have to be from that district that are coming forward.
And just a point of clarification too, first, thank you, congratulations on the move, and appreciate all of the contributions that you've had, but the term is due, it's the rest of this, so it's.
Just until the April election.
Right, yeah, so you're not talking
There'd
more
be an
than
election
10
anyway,
months
so-
anyway, yeah.
I understand your concern, Jake, and I do agree, to a certain extent, but, you know, Kevin's point, I certainly have been looking, and I will continue to reach out to some constituents that are in my district to see if there's anybody that's willing to come forth and volunteer their time. And we'll see what we get. If we get 1, great. If we get 3, 4, great. And, you know, that's why I ask, because, and I'm not saying that there's anybody out there that's gonna come forth, but what if, like, the one person that comes forth is just not gonna work? Do we still, as a body, have the capability to say, you know what, no?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure we
And
can.
that's all I was
Yeah.
looking for. As
Yeah.
long as we can do that,
Yep.
I'd be okay with
Yeah, we can do that this time, but if they take out papers.
Correct.
Yeah,
and run,
yeah.
And then win the election.
Then it would
we
be
don't
in-
have
Parts
it.
out of our hands.
Which could
Okay.
very likely happen.
Okay, do you need us to, okay.
Nope,
good.
we'll move forward with that. We'll set some dates
Okay.
And we'll maybe have something for the finance and personnel in June.
Okay. Okay, next item, agenda for the next meeting.
I would like to add discussion about expanding the city limits for the purpose of attracting home development in Algoma. Not manufacturing, not commercial, not retail, but home development. We really don't have any parcels available in Algoma that are suitable for expansion. And I would like to see us start talking about, with the county and the County Planning Commission, about how Algoma can expand to attract, as an example, that wonderful new development in South Kewanee on 42 that's been going up. There's a lot of real estate development going on in Gasco and in Luxembourg. We don't have plots of land like that to put in new subdivisions, and I'd like to talk about acquisition of suitable plots that we can expand the city, the boundaries of the city. And not carved in stone, but I think we really need to start looking at what Algoma's future is, and if we can start developing plots that we can add 50, 60, 75 houses,
I'll add it to the next agenda.
more power to us.
Okay, anything else? Otherwise, we'll make a motion to go into closed session.
So move.
Okay, so in a second, do you wanna do a roll call on going
Who
in?
seconded it?
I'll second it.
Oh,
Okay, Lautenbach,
Yes.
Mehring, Dashlet,
Yes.
Meverden,
Yes.
Pavic,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Boer,
Yes.
Kiarkey.
Yes.
Or you made the motion to go.
Oh, no,
No, I
I
did.
made the plea.
I
You
made the motion to go into open session, or closed session, leave closed session.
We go out of closed session into open session.
And then
I
who
I
made
think
the
I
motion?
seconded.
He seconded it.
okay,
The roll call vote
This
was,
was all yes.
oh, yes, yeah.
Back in
So
open
confusing.
and we're back in open session at 10:00.
Okay,
That's all I can tell you.
and action from, are we ready for action from our session? I would like to make the following motion. Matt Murphy be hired as the city administrator, salary, yada, 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 pending discussions, future discussions.
Second.
Kevin just.
Offered the position? Is that
Offered
what
the
you're trying to
position,
say?
yeah.
Offering the position, yeah. Okay, and then Kevin, you just seconded, is that what? Okay. Aaron, would you do a roll call on that?
Let me just, one
As
moment.
soon as she's done writing the motion.
Yeah.
All right, Alderman Mehring motioned that Matt Murphy be offered the administrator position, salary pending future discussion. That motion was seconded by Kevin Schmidt, and a roll call vote. Mehring,
Yes.
Boer,
Yes.
Lautenbach,
Yes.
Kiarkey,
Yes.
Pavic,
Yes.
Meverden,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Dashlet.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Murphy,
We have to wait for his acceptance.
will you accept that position?
Well, I think there needs,
Yeah, there needs to
We,
be
we
some
need to
discussion.
talk, we need to talk about the pay, I'm sure,
Clarification.
before he's gonna say yes. Yeah, we have a couple open-ended things here, but, okay.
Okay, and now the next meeting date.
Is the third, we don't have to be way at 7 o'clock at night typically, so I mean, if you really want to have, you know, the third Wednesday, but have it more like at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, I don't care.
Utility commission meeting is at 5:30.
5:30, okay.
And
So-
Wednesdays, I only can do 7 o'clock, I can't do any other.
Okay,
Thursdays I could do early, but then Casey can't, right there, Casey?
Yep.
Yeah, Thursdays are, yeah.
yeah.
Is there any reason we can't go back
Yeah.
to Tuesday at 4:30?
I wish it would be Monday or Tuesday.
And if you can't make it, you can't make it.
Um,
I mean, you go to the meeting until you can't, and then
Yeah, well,
I put it down for the third one.
the third Mondays and fourth Mondays, I have no problems with. It's just the first 2 Mondays are always things that I'm tied up in.
I think for the city, there's a whole bunch of meetings on the third
Yep,
Monday.
third Monday doesn't work. Fourth
It's
Monday is
really
too close to the council meeting.
Too
What if
close
we
to
did 4
council.
o'clock? Would that work for you? You'd be done by 6?
Okay.
We shouldn't be this long all the time.
Well,
if I got, again, if it, go back to the original, what is it, third Tuesday, second Tuesday?
Third
What
Tuesday at
was it?
4:30.
okay.
If we bump that up to 4 o'clock, would that,
If you made it
Allow
earlier,
time?
because I have to be in Kiwanee for 6, though. Yeah.
if something were
And
to
I don't
happen
believe
in
you'll
the,
have a conflict in June because didn't your meeting get moved back a week earlier?
but if we
Yeah,
permanently.
in June,
move
it's
them-
not a
Yeah,
problem.
if we permanently move them to 4 o'clock and see if it becomes an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this, I mean, 10 o'clock stuff is crazy.
But, yeah, and you could do a fine job if I have to leave 5 minutes after, you know.
I will try
Right,
my
you
best,
can't,
this,
but-
but
But,
all my
um,
kids would
yeah.
come and get me.
most of the time they
Okay,
should be done.
but in June, there isn't a problem because the county meeting got moved up.
Got moved up a
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
So
So,
you wanna go for the 21st then?
The
If we
third
we change it to
Tuesday
4
at
o'clock, would that be okay?
4
I
or
mean, better?
4:30.
yeah,
Let's try 4 o'clock. That way that gives a little more.
okay.
4 o'clock would
21st
allow,
or the 14th?
4 o'clock would allow more time, right, Mayor?
Yeah,
4 o'clock?
yeah, 4 o'clock would be great, yeah.
4 o'clock on June 22nd, 21st.
Yeah, that would work, yes.
Just 7 o'clock is just.
Yeah, you'll be gone, so it won't matter.
Hey, 7 o'clock meetings are okay as long as they're only 40 minutes long.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And how many have we had of them?
Lately, not many.
Christ, I can't remember the last time.
All right, so the next meeting date is the third Tuesday at 4 p.m.
Yep,
We're gonna give that a whirl.
21, 21st?
6:21.
21st.
Okay.
Then we would stick to our normal date then.
Right.
Tuesday, yeah.
So this is only for June, right?
Right.
Wednesday falls on the first.
Do we wanna put it to the third Tuesday at 4?
You
for
can
now?
do them at 4, yeah. Yeah, I
4
think it'd be
o'clock,
okay.
yeah.
Can we
'cause,
just change it back to the day and make them at 4 instead of 4:30? And then hopefully that'll allow enough time and
Yeah,
like. you said,
Tuesday?
Mayor, Tuesday, the third.
Tuesday, the
Tuesdays.
21st,
Yes.
Correct.
4 PM.
Go back to the way it was.
Yeah.
Normal instead
Bump
of
it back a
4:30,
half
it's
an
at 4
hour so it
o'clock.
allows more
Okay.
time.
yeah,
All right.
And if for some reason we go
Yeah.
super long,
yeah, yeah.
Some reason.
that would be great.
You would have a good excuse for going that long.
Oh,
Then Scott, as the president, council can take over and go longer.
Only if absolutely needed, which will hopefully not happen often.
Even though this has nothing to do with the city, the reason the county is doing it on the 14th, they're gonna try to do it at the fairgrounds to explain why we're gonna go ahead with the jail project, and so they wanna get that finalized. So they wanted where they can get a whole lot of people in the audience to view their opinion before we agree to spend $21 million on building a new jail.
$1 million a
So,
person.
So that's going through for sure?
well, it sounded pretty sure that it was going to, because they came up with the finances that we don't need a referendum.
Okay,
And the state is saying we have to do it, so, okay.
next
So,
meeting date though is on the 21st
On
at
the
4 o'clock.
21st at 4 o'clock.
Okay, that's,
Okay.
we got another one.
Okay,
Can we get through this
okay,
one quick?
now,
Can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Yes,
Second.
okay, all in favor, say aye.
alright.
Opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Now we're going into the special okay, no.
It says 7:01 on this one.
Because as soon as we get
I know.
done with this one, yeah. Now, where is that other agenda? Okay.
Alright, roll call, Mehring.
Yeah.
Dashlet.
Yes.
Fluor.
Here.
Kiarkey.
Here.
Lautenbach.
Yes.
Meverden.
Here.
Havoc.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Okay, then the meeting's in compliance with the open meeting law. Approval or changes to the agenda, are there any?
No.
Okay, then
So
we need to
moved.
approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the agenda's approved. Old business, is there anything that needs to come before the,
None.
in the old business? Nothing listed. Okay, new business, start with the resolutions, and turn that over to Amber.
Moved.
Second. We talked about it at the
Is that a ra-
finance
is that a
meeting,
race?
so-
Yeah, everybody wants to get out of here. Okay.
Alright, roll call, Havoc.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Kiarkey.
Yes.
Fluor.
Yes.
Dashlet.
Yes.
Mehring.
Yes.
Lautenbach.
Yes.
Meverden.
Yes.
Okay, and move on to the next item.
So moved.
A resolution authorizing the redemption of the taxable general obligation funding bonds dated November 1st, 2012.
Second.
Moved by Kevin. Okay, I need another roll call. So Dashlet.
Yes.
Havoc.
Yes.
Fluor.
Yes.
Mehring.
Yes.
Lautenbach.
Yes.
Kiarkey.
Yes.
Meverden.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Hold on one second. What time is it?
Okay, and then the next resolution.
I make a motion for resolution 1123-2022 seal coating city streets.
Second.
Because it's involving money, roll call vote again. Mehring.
Yes.
Dashlet.
Yes.
Lautenbach.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Meverden.
Yes.
Kiarkey.
Yes.
Fluor.
Yes.
Havoc.
Yes.
Really need that for bond.
Sorry, I needed the time for the bond.
Okay, the next one, approval of city administrator and city reorganizational plan.
I move that, read that thing back from the,
Go with it.
Mehring makes a motion that Matt Murphy be offered the administrator position, salary pending future discussions.
Second.
Is that an all in favor?
Okay, was there a first and a second?
kinda go
Do we
Yes,
need,
there was.
This already?
do,
All in
yeah.
favor, say aye.
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 Okay,
Knees?
okay. Then the next one is agenda items for the next meeting.
Are we gonna have separate meeting to sit down with him, or are we,
Yeah.
rather than doing it on
Yeah,
a council meeting, or how do we wanna do that?
Or does the mayor sit down with them and then they come back to us?
They
Yeah.
can do that, yes.
yeah, we need
I
to.
think a drafted, it would probably be appropriate maybe to email the council a drafted offer letter.
Okay,
Sure.
And then
That would make sense.
Sounds good.
okay. Okay, do we have an anticipation date of when we're gonna say that this is
effective
trying-
immediately
effective
upon
immediately?
well, no, effective immediately upon acceptance of a pending
Okay,
offer letter.
okay, that's why I make sure that
At
we
the
weren't gonna
council,
say.
They'll have to get approved at the next council.
Okay,
Correct.
So, I mean, we got it, this is a council meeting.
so,
but we
so
can
at
also-
the latest, it will be
Then we'll
determined
have
at
all
the
the
June,
figures.
June council meeting, at the latest?
Yeah.
Okay,
Let me ask you a question.
the motion that states all of that?
Yeah, it should probably be. in
We
there.
should, I mean, I know.
I think it already does state that.
Does it?
What?
The motion?
Should we have the effective date fall on the payday?
It's
So
offering you the
pay
job
period, so it
and
stops at one
pending,
thing.
Yeah,
and then you've
that's-
got
Okay.
to
And on the next pay
negotiate,
period,
so.
he has
Due to,
Have Matt Murphy be offered
okay,
the
when is
administrator
paydays,
position,
is every other
salary
week or
pending.
monthly, or however?
There you go. That covers it.
Okay,
Paydays every other week?
Yeah, we can always do back pay if we need to.
I was thinking once a month, like when you retire.
Well, yeah, he's moving up in the world, I think it ought to be
Okay.
once a month like all the
Hey,
other.
Mayor, if
Okay.
you come in tomorrow, I'll sit down and help you
Okay.
work on the letter and we'll figure out the details.
Adjourn, motion.
Okay.
okay, and we have all these resumes back for you, Amber.
Okay.
To take all these back, okay. Okay, is there anything else to come before the group? Not, can we get a motion to adjourn?
You already have Jake and Kevin.
Yeah, Jake and Kevin were on the ball here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. And please help yourself to donuts if you need another one on the way out to get some energy.
Later, buddy.
need to sign these three that are in here too.
Anybody want to go in for tomorrow morning?
Forget it, that's dinner.
Dinner tonight?
Yeah, that's what we're, like you said.
That's dinner.
We may not agree here, but when we're all done, it.
You'll put in.
Yep, I got all that, right on the back here.
I just didn't want you to hate me.